Hello my friends, my name is Lindsey and I run the blog Books for Christian Girls, or welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I talk mainly about Christian fiction. Today is a recent reads, and it's actually the proper number of books. I always aim to do a recent reads between 8 and 12 books, but that rarely happens. But today I am within that amount. So hopefully this video won't be too long. I mean, I make no promises because I'm a chatterbox when it comes to filming these videos, it feels like, but without further ado, let's get started. As always, I will link content reviews of all of these books down below. What else do I always say? These are rated in categories by genres, really, from lowest to highest. I will have timestamps for everything down below. I think that's what I normally say. Let's go ahead and get started. So I'm actually, typically I do like any clean romance books or clean books or secular books at the end. I switched it up last time and I'm actually going to switch it up again today. I'm going to keep y'all on your toes, that's what I'm doing. Because I have 3 kind of meh romance books that were considered to be clean. But here's the thing. Clean romance books literally just mean no bedroom scenes. It's closed door, typically no F-bombs, that kind of thing. But that can still be other kinds of cussing, and then also heavy making out, and that was my problem with some of these. Let's first, though, my DNF for this category would be Borrow My Heart by Casey West. I know she's a very popular YA author. There was no real cussing. I just got to like 50% or so, and I was just mindlessly scrolling. I wasn't really reading, I was just mindlessly scrolling, so I'm like, you know, I'm going to DNF it. I thought it was a very cute concept in the sense of all the dogs. The cover is adorable, let's just say. I don't know, it just felt very pointless and fluff, and not the kind of fluff I like. I don't know, I wasn't expecting greatness, but I just don't think this author's for me. I know she's super popular, so I'm sorry to fans who enjoy her books. I just have a really hard time reading, I feel like, romance books, especially contemporary romance books, where there is no Christian faith content, because like I read Erin Mangum. Erin Mangum's one of my all-time favorite authors for just in general, but she writes contemporary, Christian contemporary books, and she's also done contemporary YA for the Christian genre, and she just hits it out of the park. So I guess subconsciously I am always comparing every other contemporary romance I read, whether it be in the secular clean side or in the Christian side, they all get put up against her books because they're just fabulous and they have such a good message. So when I read books like this one, Borrow My Heart, it just does not stand up and I lose interest. So I DNF'd that one. I also picked up a couple little, again, clean romance books for the Stuff Your Kindle Day, and I found them both to be duds, but that's just me. The first one was Falling for Prince Charming by Sophie-Leigh Robbins. You know, there was already there was some heavy kissings in there and quite a bit of mild innuendos. The concept of working at an amusement park and falling for Prince Charming, you know, that's a cute concept. That's what got me into the book. That's what kept me into the book when I probably should have DNF'd it earlier. It was a lot of heavy making out, and again, this is the kind of example of it can be marketed as a clean romance because they don't go to the bedroom. We don't see them in the bedroom. We just see heavy kissing leading up, and I'm not personally okay with that, so this was very much a miss. If you want a fun theme park centered series or book, I would recommend the Sweet Seasons series by Debbie Vigay, I believe is maybe how you pronounce the author's name. Super fun, YA, has a bit of Christian content in it, very fun. I've enjoyed that series, and reading this book really made me want to reread this one, but I just reread this series a couple of years ago, so I'm not going to do that. Pretty sure my TBR would try to murder me in my sleep if I read a book that wasn't off of it, and I reread another book off of this shelf, but I digress. Alright, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I have tons of those. That's totally fine. Housemate by Leah Brunner. I'm sorry. I know I have friends who love her books. I'm sorry. I thought I would enjoy this one because I thought there wasn't going to be a third act breakup, but there went the third act breakup. I'm so tired of the third act breakups, y'all. Like when everything's hunky-dory, and then we get to like 75% and then some misunderstanding happens, and it's like, y'all, seriously? But then they quickly resolve it because the last few pages of the book is approaching. And I find that very annoying. So there was that, but there also was a part, how can I describe this book? So he's a doctor, apparently a very attractive doctor, because she was admiring him way too much for my taste. I was just like, girl, have some self-respect, will you? And then she is a widow with a young daughter, and she becomes his nanny for his young daughter. But there was a certain kind of, there was more to the story in the regard of their daughters and things like that. And she reacted terribly to news that I thought was not that big of a deal. And I thought she was just being so overdramatic. It almost felt out of character for her. I'm being oddly vague. I'm sorry. I have spoilers in my review. But it was just really annoying. I liked her until she pulled that. Because I was like, seriously? This is what you're upset about this? This is not a big deal, hun. And then when she gets told it, she's embarrassed. But, like, I'm being vague. I'm sorry. This is weird. But this was disappointing. There also was a certain word used that I strongly dislike. Like, if I had to rank my least favorite cuss words, that would probably be number one. Like, I think I'd rather hear the F-bomb, unfortunately, than that word. I just dislike that word so much. And that was used. And I was just like, eh. So, I mean, I put it as a 2, but that's not accurate. I need to change that. Sorry, y'all. So those were my meh romance books. Moving on into young adult, I have 2 and then a fantasy book that I'll talk about in a minute, but all 3 of those are YA. So for the first one, though, that was Feeling the Chemistry by Melissa Knight. This was just like a little Kindle Unlimited book. I was in the mood for a little contemporary YA. There was faith content. I think my main struggle, though, with this book was that the main girl felt so much younger than what she was. Like, she was supposed to be 16 or something about that, and I don't feel like she was that way at all. The main girl in this series, though, it's just her and her little sister and her mom ends up getting remarried to a man that has like 3 boys, and so they have to move into their house and go to a new school. So it's kind of that plot line, which I was very intrigued about. Personally, I did find it on the more basic side. It wasn't bad. I just wouldn't call it excellent. I'm sorry. I probably won't continue the series. It was a good palette cleanser because I was reading like different genres, and it was a good palette cleanser for in between genres. But it wasn't bad. It just didn't wow me. So the first book I get a hold of is also in the YA, and technically it's YA fantasy, but there is no fantasy, but it's that medieval princess style, but there's no fantasy content. But it's like, you know, the kingdom, the fairy tale, that kind of thing. Not fairy tale. What's the word I'm looking for? Princess, the knights, that kind of thing. So my brain automatically classifies that as fantasy, but there's no magic content or anything like that. So that is A Royal Quest by Melody Carlson. I have had this book on my radar for a couple of years at least, because I know the author first indie published it, and then White Crown picked it up, and this is going to be a duology if I remember right. I feel like the author said in an email it was a duology. And that book will be released in 2024. This one, though, it's a basic plotline, but that doesn't mean it's bad. Personally, I gave it a 3 stars, but I really think those who like Melanie Dickerson's books, especially her newer books, would really like this book because it's a very much similar thread. In this case, though, the main girl is Princess Heather, and she is a twin, and her sister Princess Rose is not great. And then Heather goes on an adventure to see the kingdom before she becomes the queen. But things don't go as planned, as always. And I like it when things don't go as planned in books because that's what makes it entertaining. Personally, I'd give it a 3. I didn't find it outstanding, but it was enjoyable. And I definitely think like 13 up would probably enjoy this the most. I do have a couple little content notes, and I will link my review down below of this book. But the general overview is the romance came out of left field for me, and I thought it was very interesting that the last thing, and this isn't a spoiler, it says they all lived happily ever after, or did they? And that makes me excited for the next book because I have questions and not everything was answered in here. I wasn't a fan of the random romance, but I'm pretty positive that's really gonna come to play in the next book. So I'm accepting it for now, but there is that, and then there's also mentions of a teen girl flirting with men and spending an evening with them. So there's kind of allusions to that kind of thing. So just a heads up for that for younger readers, but overall it wasn't bad. I think quite a few would probably enjoy it. The next book for the official fantasy category would be The King's Feather by Amy Earls. How do I begin to explain this book? This one was very different, and I honestly am struggling on how to explain it. It is fantasy, but it also has an allegory-esque feel, and personally, I'm not a big allegory fan. Our main girl, though's name is Pero, which my brain is auto-correcting to the Spanish word for dog, so I really struggled with her name. But apparently it's from the root word for feather. I'm not sure in what language, maybe Hebrew, because there was a lot of Hebrew in the book. And it was a very interesting plot line, and it's kind of a retelling or almost reimagining of Jericho with the walls falling down, you know? And it was interesting. Personally, I struggled understanding what was happening and how everything was connected, because it also had like that portal / alternate universe world, and I didn't understand how everything was connected or how it all worked, and our main girl really didn't either, but nobody would tell her how things happened, so she's more being rushed to go be the prophesized one that she is, but she's not really being explained to anything, or what she is being explained to she doesn't understand, so I didn't understand. Again, though, it could be because I'm not an allegory big fan. Like, there's very few books on the shelf you'll see that have allegories, because I prefer things to be straight up said. I don't want any of this poeticness. I don't do poetry either, that should be noted. And so, and the same reasons is that I want to be told. I don't want this hidden meaning behind the words. Just tell me. Just give it to me. Give it to me straight kind of thing. I'm not a big fan of that kind of thing. So I think this book was personally a miss for me. I gave it a personal rating of 2 stars. Those who really enjoy fantasy books or that portal fantasy or alternate universe fantasy might enjoy this, especially those who enjoy allegories more. Personally, it just wasn't my cup of tea. For suspense, I finished a series, go me, and that is Code of Valor by Lynette Eason. This is book 3 in the Blue Justice series, and then Vow of Justice, also by Lynette Eason, book 4 in the series. Let's discuss this one first. Technically, though, I gave them the same rating of 2.5 stars, but let me explain, or let me at least try to explain about some of this. So this series is neat, though, because it follows a family that almost all the members are in law enforcement or in some kind of public servant field. So like one sister's a doctor, the father's a lawyer, the mom's a police chief. You've got FBI siblings, you've got detective siblings. So I really like the concept of this series. And I think for those older girls who really like the suspense series and that kind of thing would really enjoy this series. I do have content warnings though that I will link down below. But the main premise of this one is Brady is going to just have a nice relaxing vacation, but then he witnesses an attempted murder on the main girl Emily, and then they get shot at and the house gets blown up. You know, all those crazy things that happen in suspense books. It was entertaining. I mean, I'm glad I'm not living this life, but it does have some harshness because of what the main girl has gone through, and sadness and deaths and murders, you know, all the stuff that happens when you're on the run. I think did I discuss this one in a recent, not a recent reads, in a reading vlog? I think I did. I finished this right at the end of June, beginning of July. So I think I discussed that in a reading vlog. If I did, I'll link it up there. But for the time being, I liked it, but I didn't really enjoy it, and I don't keep anything less than 3 stars on the shelf, so I will most likely unhaul them. But it's a series when people are like, oh, I really liked it. I can see why. It's a really fun premise. I really liked the family. There are certain parts that made the ratings lower. For the 4th and final book, that is Vow of Justice, and I, again, also gave this one 2.5 stars. I need to real quick point out, though, these covers. I hate them. I feel like they're staring into my soul. I do not like these covers. And it was really hard because did I read this one as a physical book? I read one of them as a physical book, and I just felt so awkward holding this book because he's staring into my soul. or whoever's soul, whoever walks by. I don't like this cover at all. But that's neither here or there. I gave this one 2.5 stars. And again, I liked the concept of the premise of the story, but there's some content that just kind of bogged it down. And in this book's case, for me, there was a lot of murder. And then our main girl has a really hard past. And that includes a child that was murdered. And that was just hard. That was hard, and I just felt for her so bad. I just wanted to give Allie a hug so much because she's just been through a lot. And in this book, I struggled with it. So, okay, the premise is Lincoln, who's one of the brothers. He's an FBI agent. He has his partner, who is Allie. And they like each other, but shortly into the book, Allie dies. But she doesn't really. But Link thinks she did. So he's kind of kept. But it's quickly revealed, like, oh, she's alive. Why did you lie to me, kind of thing. But it wasn't her idea, and it has to do with all of that kind of thing. So they quickly got through that pretty quick, those emotions. But then when they're having to ignore their feelings for the other and focus on trying to find this assassin, and it has to do with, like, the Russian mafia and everything. So I would suggest, if anybody likes those romance mafia books, I want to read this one. It shows a different side of the mafia in the sense of they aren't good people, y'all. Come on. Don't need to be romanticizing it. Oh my goodness. The amount of book talk videos I have seen that romanticize the mafia books, just, oh my word. But regardless, so it has all that. It has a lot of murders and a lot of them being shot at. I think this one might take the place for the main couple being shot or being shot at. I think they win. My main problem, though, besides the content and the heaviness of the murders, was because Allie is, like, she's dead, but obviously she's not dead. They're able to do a lot of things off the record, but it was a lot of things they did off the record that, had it not been a fiction book, I feel like they would have gotten fired so fast. Like, it almost felt unbelievable, all the connections and favors they were calling in, because they're in the FBI. The amount of red tape when you're in the FBI, like, I don't know. There were certain things I was just like, this is getting a little unbelievable. And then I did foresee who the bad guy was, and that was annoying. And then there was another twist I saw coming, which is always disappointing when I'm like, I know I'm really smart, y'all, but how do I keep finding these endings? Maybe I'm not smart and they're just obvious answers. Things to ponder. But the last little bit, there was a part that happened, and I feel like I've read it in another one of this author's books, and I cannot tell you which one. I swear I've read it, though. So I don't know. I didn't love it, these two, unfortunately. I will most likely unhaul these because I don't keep books that I rated lower than 3 on this shelf. Which is disappointing because, like, I really got into the suspense. I think it was this one where the last 30%, I had anxiety. Like, I was a little stressed. Like, what's going on? What are we doing? Don't trust him. Like, it was a little bit like, I can't believe y'all aren't picking up these clues. But at the same time, you are being shot at, like, every 5 minutes. So I guess I need to show you grace. So there's that. But regardless, I read them. I have finished another series, and I have 2 books off my physical TBR, so that's awesome. Moving on into kind of rom-com mysteries. I've got 2 books, and I am very excited to talk about both of these books. Let's do the 4-star one first. And that was Wedding at Sea by Melissa Tagg. Look at this junker. It's 400 pages of just loveliness. And I have been anticipating this story since the very first book, when we first got introduced to all the characters. The first book was Autumn by the Sea, and then A Seaside Wonder, and now Wedding at Sea. This has been a great trilogy. I would say for older teens, though, because the romance has its points, and especially in the first couple of books, there was a bit much. But this one was just so, it was such a good conclusion to the series, and the epilogue, love it. I'm so glad the author said we will most likely be going back to visit them in another book, because I really, really liked these characters. Okay, I need to tell y'all about the book. I'm just fangirling. So Lillian, how can I explain this book? So it follows Lillian and Wilder is a private investigator, and he has been trying to find Maggie Muir, who is Lillian's adoptive mother. He has been trying to find Maggie's long-lost granddaughter. That's been the whole premise for the last 3 books. It goes through all 3 books. We have the oldest brother was book 1 with his girl, and then book 2 was the youngest sister and her guy. Oh my goodness, they were adorable. And now we have Lillian, who's the middle child or the oldest daughter. And her and Wilder, this is the enemies to lovers I like, y'all. Like, I am constantly going on enemies to lovers. I know, I did it all throughout my last recent reads. I'm so sorry. This is the enemies to lovers that I accept, and that is when they're not actually enemies and they don't actually hate each other or trying to kill the other. They just banter a lot, and they're just like, you annoy me and I can't figure out why, or you annoy me and I know why, so I'm going to annoy you back. I like that kind of enemies to lovers. So it's really more of like a, what is it, antagonists to lovers that I can get on board with. And they just had it excellent. I did so many quotes. I read it as a Kindle book first, and then I bought a physical copy because I needed it for the shelf. But I highlighted so many parts. I haven't tabbed anything yet, but I do need to do that because they had so many banter parts, and I keep posting different clips of it on TikTok because I'm just having way too much fun with these quotes, and it's the enemies to lovers I like, I'm telling y'all. Lillian and Wilder, they just have such a fun banter, and it's very entertaining. I have to say, it's very entertaining. That's all I got to say. I've enjoyed the series. It was a great conclusion to this series. I love it. My last 3 books of this video, which includes Wedding at Sea, and then now my next 2 were great reads. I get to end this video on such a high note. I'm so happy. So the next book is, I believe, my first official 5 stars. I've given like 4.75 and 4.5 and that kind of thing. And I've done like 4.5 rounded to 5 on Goodreads. But my first full 5-star book, I'm pretty positive, is Every Dog Has His Day by Janice Thompson. Oh my goodness. I know this one for a fact was included in my June reading vlogs, so I will link that up there because I filmed different parts while I was reading because I just knew I would have reactions, and I had reactions. I had so many reactions. Oh, this book, y'all. This is one of those books that when you get done reading it, you just hug it and kind of want to cry because it was so good. Have you ever had those? Or maybe it's just my hormones. I don't know. When you just have such a good book that you want to cry happy tears. I hope that happens to other ones, but that could all mean our hormones are out of whack. I don't know. But it was just so good. This is book 5, though, in the Gone to the Dogs mystery series. Y'all have been hearing me rave about them since the beginning of time. No, since the beginning of the series released, which was... I don't have the first book with me. It is on loan. I loaned it out. I'm such a nice human. It's not autographed yet. Once it's autographed, those don't leave this house. I can't remember when that first book released. It was 22, wasn't it? Or was it 21? I don't remember. But I've been talking about this series forever, and it's been such a good series. This book, I loved the first book. I gave the first book 5 stars, and then I gave this one 5 stars. Everybody else has gotten like from 4 to, I think, 4.75. I don't even do half-star. Goodreads doesn't even let us do half-star ratings, and here I am doing quarter-star ratings. I know it's a little much, but I have to accurately tell y'all how much I like a book, you know? So, anyway, book 5, one more book and it's over. I'm not prepared, and almost, in a way, this book kind of did feel like the last book because the 6th book that's releasing, it's not about any of these characters at this vet clinic. So it kind of felt like a goodbye, which is probably another reason why I wanted to cry, because it was just so well done. But this follows our main girl, Izzy, and she is the groomer for the Lone Star Vet Clinic. And we've seen her throughout the series. We've learned a bit about her, but now this is her book. And she happens to find a little doxie. Look at this, y'all. The amount I read this as a physical book, and I keep noting that because I don't read a lot of physical books anymore. I own a lot of physical books, but I typically read them as an ebook. But I read this one as a physical book, and I had to just keep pausing and looking at this cover because it's so cute. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. So they quickly become friends, her and the doxie, but then there is a new football player to the Houston Texans. Is that the right name? I don't follow football. I don't know. I should know that, though. I'm a Texas girl. I should know that. Houston Texans. Yeah, I think that, I'm pretty sure that's the right order. It doesn't sound right the other way. But regardless, he's new to the team, and he finds out his dog's missing, and it's very much assumed that it's this puppy dog. And there's a lot of things though that have to go on, and they're like, I don't know, you don't have the proper paperwork, we're not giving you this dog. And it becomes like a whole social media campaign and gets blasted all over the US and that kind of thing. So it's crazy. But it was so entertaining, and then the romance was just so sweet and clean. The faith content was good, lots of humor, Texas charm. Again, I'm not a football person, but I still loved it. I do not do football. Like, I'd rather watch any other sport than football. But this book made me enjoy it. I have to say. Never thought that would happen. But this was such a good book. I could rave and just fangirl forever and ever and ever about it. It was just so lovely. And also, here's my thing. Here's my disclaimer. You have to read the series in order. I beg you to read the series in order, especially when it comes like 1 through 4. Okay, if you want to switch it up, that's fine. But read this book last. Like, after you've read 1 through 4, read this one. You could technically switch up 1 through 4 if you want to change it. If you want to, if like your library doesn't have them in or whatever, you could switch around, but read this book last. Because the last little bit of this book just wraps it up so well, and I just love it. Book 6, though, looks like it's going to be about completely different characters, which I'm still excited about. But I don't imagine it'll be able to make me squee and fangirl like the main series has, but I'm still going to read it, obviously. I have it on pre-order, but it was so good. It was so good. And of course Daisy's going to start barking while I'm talking about a dog book. She barks regardless whether I'm talking about a dog book or any kind of book. Regardless though, one of the big questions I keep getting asked about this series. Number 1, how is it mysteries with dogs? Are dogs the main character? No, dogs are not the main character. They are just heavily featured in its following. It's set at a vet clinic and its workers. So you follow the people, but dogs are heavily involved. Number 2, do dogs die? I am super sensitive to that. If there's any animal that passes away throughout this series, it is because of old age. Or any animal, cat or dog, passes away throughout the series, it's because of old age or major injuries. So there is that. And then 3, do people die? No, people die. Nope, it's a cozy mystery with no murder, which is really rare to find, I feel like, these days. But I'm very happy about it. So yes, highly recommend. First person, typically only told in the main girl's point of view. If I remember it, I don't think any of the other ones had the guy's point of view, which is just fun. They're quick, easy reads. I beg you to read them because they are lovely. Did I get all my fangirling out? I don't know. I don't know if I did or not. My last book is a historical book, and that was happened to be a very good book. I was impressed, I have to say. And that is The All-American by Susie, I think it's Finkbeiner? I don't know. I've heard so many booktube friends and book friends rave about this author, and I was very, very excited about this one because it has to do with baseball. Now, baseball is my sport. I love baseball so much. Go Cubs, even though I'm from Texas. I was raised on the Chicago Cubs. It's a story. But I really like baseball. I was very intrigued. This one though was set in the 1950s, 1952 to be exact. And that was just so fun. It added such a nostalgic charm, kind of like I was like reading a book about like one of my grandmothers or something. Like it had that kind of just happy, nostalgic, vintage charm to it, and I thought that was so neat. But the main premise of the story is, yes, a lot of baseball, but I think even if you don't like baseball, you would enjoy this story. It follows 2 sisters, 16-year-old Bertha, who loves baseball, plays baseball on the boys' team, wants to get onto the girls, the women's baseball team, like all that, which that was a really fun history bunny trail I went down after I finished this book. So I always love when I read a historical book and it sends me on a bunny trail of research. That's how you know I really got into the book. So like every Elizabeth Camden book I typically do that with, but I also do it with this one. And let's see, okay, so Bertha is very big into baseball. And then we also follow her younger sister Flossie, or Florence. I love the name Flossie for Florence, that nickname. I think that is so cute. I don't feel like I've ever heard that before, but she's 11 and she is something else. Like, let me just say, she is something else. Like, you want to talk about a character. Like, you would be thoroughly entertained if you had her in your family. And that was the neat thing about this book, is it wasn't just baseball. It was a lot of familyness and just that cozy family feeling which was just so sweet. So it has to do with all that. But then a bit into the book, their family is accused of being communist, and it just gets way too hard to stay in the town they're living, so they move to go hang out with their uncle, live with their uncle for a bit until everything dies down and it's confirmed that they are not communists. And so meanwhile we have a lot of lessons and friendships and all that kind of thing, and it was just very neat. I will say the last little bit ripped my heart out. Like it kind of got to the point where it was like, just shoot me, it would hurt less. I'm being dramatic, but it just slightly, this last bit, I was like, why did you do that to me kind of thing, but it was good. It was still good. It gave me an excuse to cry. I can always use an excuse to cry these days. But it was a very touching, very charming read. I keep using that word, but I feel like that was a really good way to describe it. I see why so many booktube friends and other book friends, y'all rave about her books. She has such a neat writing style, and I own a couple of her books on my TBR, and now I am very interested in reading them, hopefully before the end of the year, because at least one of them before the end of the year, because I was just very impressed. I really enjoyed it. Even though it follows a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old, I would put it more towards high school girls just because of some comments or, you know, the 1950s in the sense of what was a woman's job and that kind of thing. So full content review linked down below as always, but I would say more high school girls. But overall, really enjoyed it. I love that it's got a solid red spine. I know right where that's going on this bookshelf, and that is always great. So there we go. My stack of books. I have a small amount of books to talk about, but I feel like I've still been talking y'all's ear off. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to know if you've read any of these. Do you want to read any of these? I had another question I was going to ask, but I'm not sure what it was. Oh, do you know of any more rom-com mysteries in the Christian genre? I feel like there's a couple, and I know Miss Janice Thompson has another series that follows into that, but there is murder, if I remember right, or dead bodies or something like that. I know there's that one, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So if you know of any, please do let me know. I'd be super curious, because Wedding at Sea and, well, just that series, the Harbor series, with the rom-com, with the mystery thread throughout, I really like that. And then the Gone to the Dogs series has been like that, but in a different way, and I've really been enjoying how it's been done and everything. So yay, this was a pretty successful recent reads. I mean, okay, we started off a little at the beginning, but we're ending on a really high note. I'm very happy. So that is it for this recent reads. Again, I'd love to know if you've read any of these. Do you want to read any of them? I will have all the full content reviews linked down below, because they were just so much fun. A lot of these, I had some really good books. I mean, a 5-star book, yes, I will always take those. And y'all know I'm super picky with my 5 stars, so to have a 5 stars makes me so happy. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I am Lindsey from the blog booksforchristiangirls.blogspot.com, where there's a new review every Monday and Friday. I try to post a new video on this channel every other Friday, and then I'm also on Instagram and Goodreads and TikTok and all those places. And I've been meaning to mention this in my last few videos, and I keep forgetting. Sorry about that. But we have a newsletter. Books for Christian Girls has a newsletter. There is a monthly wrap-up, so it will discuss all the books that were reviewed, any videos that were posted, Instagram posts, TikToks, anything else newsworthy for Books for Christian Girls. That will come out once a month, and then every other week there will be a kind of review summary of what's happened the last couple weeks, and a little bit more about books that have been reviewed and letting y'all know what's been reviewed and that kind of thing. So about 3 to 4 emails a month. If you'd like to sign up, the Google form will be down below, and I will add you, and I'm super excited. I feel so excited to be doing that. I just sent out the first one recently, but y'all are seeing this probably way later, but so a couple have probably come out by now, but super excited about that. I would love for y'all to join if you'd like to. Just fill out that form below. Ooh, my cheeks literally hurt. I've been talking and smiling so much about these books. I love it when that happens, but my cheeks are aching. Anyway, thank you again for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. Bye!